Hello and welcome my dear third standard students. I am Rohan sir from Mahdi English Medium School. Once again I welcome all of you in science lecture. Are you all watching the lectures regularly? I hope that you are watching all the lectures in the sequence I am uploading. So, if you will watch the lectures in the sequence, you will be able to follow each and every work, each and every lecture and the fair book, textbook related work given in the same. My dear little champs, if you were watching all the lectures, you should know that till now what have we done. So I'll just repeat what have we done. Until then I hope that you will be ready with your textbook, pencil and the rough book. Always make sure in my lecture, whenever you are preparing yourself and when you are sitting for my lecture, your textbook, your rough book and the pencil should always be there with you. So, what have we done in our previous lectures? We have completed the reading and the hard words part of the chapter. Moreover, we also have done the warm-up exercise which is given always at the beginning of the chapter. From the textbook itself, obviously. So these two things we have done in our previous lecture. So my dear students, today I am going to explain you the chapter. So I hope you all are ready to understand the chapter and enjoy chapter number 8, birds. So let's get started. I hope that now you are ready with your textbook, rough book and the pencil. So, let's start with the explanation part of chapter number 8. Chapter number 8, birds. Now, this chapter is all about the birds. That is what I told you even in the previous lecture. What particularly you are going to learn is about the beaks, feet and claws, how birds fly, about their feathers, nests of the birds. So these are the main concepts you are going to understand and learn in this chapter. Now I suppose that you should now know that what is beak, feet and claws, feathers of the birds. This is what we have done already in the previous lecture by labeling this diagram. Now you should know that what is beak, what is feather of the bird. So this part is called the beak. These are the wings of the birds on both the sides. This is the toe and what we call nail. This is the claw of a bird with the help of which they can hold their food. So birds are of various colors and sizes. Look at the picture below and we have already labeled that, isn't it so? I hope that you too were labeling this diagram with me in your textbook, and I hope that you will send me the photos if you have not sent yet of this bird labeled well diagram. So please send the photo of the labeled well diagram if you have not sent it till now. Let's get started about the topic birds. So the first topic we are going to learn is about the beaks. About the beaks. So let's get started. A bird uses its beak to catch and eat food. Different birds have different kinds of beaks depending upon the food they eat. So like human beings, birds also have the different food habits, eating habits. Right? Eating habitats, they have the different ways. Some of the birds might be eating only the food we provide. Some of the birds might be eating their own food. Let us see what are the eating habitats of the birds. Birds such as sparrow and pigeon eats nuts and seeds. As you can see in this picture, sparrow and pigeon. Now by looking at the picture you might have seen these two birds, isn't it so? Sparrow and pigeon. These are the birds you will often see on the tree or near your house, on the pole or anywhere. Now as you can see that I have brought a picture for you that how this bird eats. Generally nuts and seeds they eat. So small tiny things they eat. And you also might be knowing many of you might be having the habit of feeding the seeds and nuts to the birds whenever you see them, like in your compound or in the garden. So you just throw the seeds and they come together and they eat the nuts or the seeds you feed them. So by looking at the picture, I hope that now you got the idea how the eating habit is of sparrow and pigeons. So these birds have strong, short and hard beaks that help them to crack open their food. So you know that how tiny the seeds are, correct? I also have the picture of tiny seeds. Let me show it to you. So as you can see these tiny seeds. So how hard it is. Sometimes whenever you see this kind of seeds or nuts at your home, just try to break it with your 2 fingers. Will it be possible? Obviously not, because these are too hard to be broken with 2 fingers. Correct? We need to just kind of crack it with the hard substance we have at our home, and we make the flour out of these seeds. So these birds have the strong, small and hard beak with the help of which they can crack this tiny seeds and open it and eat it. So now I hope you got an idea what sparrow and pigeon eats and how their beaks are. Next is flesh eating. So flesh eating birds such as eagle, vulture and hawk feed on small birds and animals. That means, my dear students, these eagle and vulture, they don't eat vegetarian food. They eat small animals or the birds. Yes, they are able to hunt small animals and birds. Yes, so I also have brought the picture for you of an eagle hunting an animal. So I hope you can see clearly that how they hunt the animal. If you can see that eagle is holding the snake. Now you will say, oh, snake. Yes, they eat tortoise, they eat turtle, they eat snake. Whatever they see on the ground, whenever they are hungry, they just hunt for their food. So they are really very dangerous even for the human beings. Even when human beings keep these kind of birds on their hand, they wear 2 or 3 layered gloves. Otherwise, they can even tear our hands. So their beaks are really very sharp. Let us read further. They have strong, sharp and hooked beaks for tearing flesh. Correct? So they eat the flesh of other animals. So accordingly their beaks are capable of tearing the flesh. The beaks are very strong and sharp, also hooked. If you can see here, I will zoom in the picture, how hooked they are. Yes, they are a bit curved. So it is easy to tear the flesh once they catch their flesh, their prey. Now, next is birds such as woodpecker have strong pointed beaks. Such beaks help them to poke holes into hard tree trunks and pull out insects from the holes. So, my dear students, woodpecker have very strong beak. They can even poke the holes in the tree trunks. Now, if you have studied previous chapters, you might be knowing that how hard the trunk is of the tree. So, they are even able to poke the holes inside such a hard trunk. Now you can imagine how hard their beaks might be. So they can poke the hole, not only that, but after poking the hole they can pull out the insects which are there within the trunks. Hoopoe uses its beak to look for the food inside existing tree holes. That means if you can see another bird, this bird does not poke the hole. This bird only looks into the hole which is already there. So hoopoe is not able to poke the hole, but hoopoe is able to just peep inside, just catch the insects inside the hole which are already there. Water birds such as duck and goose have broad and flat beaks. Now as you can see, duck and goose, so they have broad and flat beaks. The beaks are not pointed, so they cannot kill any insect, they cannot kind of hunt any insect. So now your question might be that, sir, if they are not hunting, how will they eat? So these birds take in muddy water with insects, worms and plants using their beaks. So they live in the water. That is why they are called water birds, right? Water birds. The name is because they live in the water most of the time. So what do? They just take in the muddy water in hole in which sometimes they get the insects, sometimes they catch worms and sometimes the plants. So as you can see, this is the picture, right? This is the picture of goose. This way they catch their food. They do not have such hunting skills, but they just open their mouth, just dive inside the water and catch whatever is luckily they get. So sometimes they get the plants, they even eat that. Sometimes they get the fishes, they eat that. So whatever they get inside the water, even the worms, earthworms kind of insects, they just eat it up. So that is why they specially don't have pointed beaks, they have the flat beaks. And obviously along with the flat they have the broad beaks, so they can hold maximum amount of food they get from the muddy water. Next is birds such as sunbird and hummingbird suck nectar from the flowers. They have long and pointed beaks which help to suck the nectar. Now as you can see here, the picture is given of hummingbird. Now what is the meaning of humming? Humming means the sound you make. This kind of sound is made. So when you don't sing the song, you just make the tune of the song without opening the mouth. That is called humming, right? So hummingbird is called, the name is according to its sound. So this is how pointed their beaks are. Now they are not too pointed, they are just simply pointed to just suck the nectar of the flower from the small thin tube. Now here I hope you can see, my dear students, is the picture of a sunbird. How beautiful sunbird is, isn't it so? And you can see that how beautifully it sucks the nectar. How beautifully it sucks the nectar. So it can stand in the air, it can fly in the air, and at the same time it can suck the nectar from the flower. So now I hope by looking at the picture you have got the idea. So every different kind of bird has different kind of beak according to their food. So I will just repeat it once and then we will turn the page. At first we saw very common birds which we often see in our daily life, sparrow and pigeon. What kind of beak they have? So these birds have strong, short and hard beak. Strong, very short, obviously if you can see in the picture, and the hard beak with the help of which they can just crush their food, the tiny seeds they eat. Whereas flesh eating birds like vulture and eagle, they have very sharp, strong and hook kind of beaks with the help of which they can hunt. Then next we saw the pointed beaks of woodpecker and hoopoe, in which we saw that woodpecker can just poke the hole inside the tree, Hoopoe cannot do that, but Hoopoe can just take the food in the present hole of the trunk. And then we saw the water birds like goose and the duck. They don't have pointed or very long or very short beaks. They just have flat and the very broad beaks, with the help of which they can catch maximum amount of muddy water, in which they can get worms, insects or plants to eat. And then we saw hummingbird and the sunbird. They are having the pointed and the long beaks, but it is not as pointed as woodpecker has. So they have pointed beaks, with the help of which they can just put in the beak and suck the nectar of the flower. Now on the next page, we will discuss the details of feet and claws of the bird. So let us discuss, let us read and understand. Also, the varieties of pictures are given for you to understand it more precisely. The labeled diagrams are given. Feet and claws. Birds have 2 feet, usually with 4 toes on each. They use their feet to walk and hop around, as well as to catch and hold food. So, flesh eating birds such as eagle and vulture have very sharp claws called talons. Now, if you can see in the picture, labeled diagram is given of an eagle having talons. So, strong and sharp pointed claws of the eagle bird or the vulture are called talons. As we human beings have fingers in our hands, they have talons. So, you can see how sharp, how pointed it is. Like I said, even if we human beings will hold this bird in our hand, they can tear our flesh, they can tear our skin. So, these birds are really very dangerous even for the human beings. Sometimes if you want, you can see these birds in the YouTube or anywhere in the Discovery Channel. Using these talons, they pick up small animals such as toads, mice and rats. So, these kind of small animals they can pick up. What they will do? They will pick up these animals from the land, they will fly up in the air and they will leave these animals, they will throw this animal from the certain height. Now, what will happen if these animals will fall from certain height? They will obviously die. So, this is how they hunt their food. They will catch the animal from the ground, they will fly very high. And as you know that vultures and eagles are very famous for flying highest in the sky at highest level, and they will leave these animals and they will just kill these animals like toads, mice and rats. Toads are the young one of frog. Perching birds such as crow, sparrow, pigeon and parrot use their feet to hold on to tree branches and sit on them. This is called perching. Now, what is the meaning of perching? To hold on the tree branches and to sit on them is called perching with their claws. So, here the example is given. A sparrow grips the tree branches with its feet. Now, as you can see in the picture, sparrow is sitting on the tree and how it has maintained its balance with the help of the feet, correct? And the feet picture is also given very clearly. So, one kind of thumb is there which human beings also have. Now, moving on to scratching birds. What is scratching birds? Scratching birds such as hen and peacock have very sharp claws to dig the ground. A peacock also digs out food using its toes. Now, have you all seen peacock? I bet that you have seen the peacock 100 times. Peacock is our national bird. So you might have seen peacock. So scratching birds such as hen and peacock have very sharp claws. If you can see that here the picture is given, a hen uses its toes to scratch the mud to bring out the small insects. You know, earthworms and snails are there in the soil. So these kind of birds like peacock and hen, what do? They just scratch the ground, they just dig the ground and they bring out the snails and earthworm inside the soil and they eat these kind of insects which are then within the ground. So a peacock also digs out food using its toes. Now we have never seen peacock hunting any animal or eating any flower or food. So what do they eat? Now you know that peacock also digs the ground and takes out the food like worms and snails which are there in the soil. Next are climbing birds. Climbing birds such as woodpecker have two toes pointing in the upward direction and two toes in the downward direction. Now as you can see here in the picture, kind of stand is there. Have you seen tripod stand? Correct? So kind of stand is there. So their legs are looking like a stand. If you can see, two toes are in the upward direction and two toes are in the downward direction. So these birds are called the climbing birds. So example is given, woodpecker. You saw the woodpecker. A woodpecker holds on to a tree with the help of this kind of toes. This helps these birds to climb up and hold on to the trees. So they are easily able to climb the trees, easily able to climb up and climb down the trees because they have such kind of toes. They can easily maintain the grip on the trees. Water birds such as duck and goose have webbed feet that help them to swim in the water. Now they have the webbed feet. If you can see here, the webbed feet of duck. The feet is webbed, it is connected to each other. Fingers are not independent. The front toes of these birds are joined by the skin, giving them a flat appearance. This helps them to push water while swimming, and that is the reason why they can swim easily. So if I can draw the rough diagram here, for example, these are the toes. So they are connected like this. They are connected like this so that they can easily flap the water. They can easily swim in the water because there is no gap in the toe. So that is why they can push the water and swim very comfortably in the water. Water birds such as the heron, stork and crane can walk through the water. This is called wading. If you can see the long leg of the stork, how long it is. They are easily able to walk in the water as well. Wading birds have long legs with spread out toes that help them walk in the water. So they can easily maintain their balance, their grip in the water. As you can see, their toes are, 3 fingers are pointing towards the front direction and one kind of thumb is there in the backward direction. They can easily maintain their grip and balance and walk in the water because of their toes and the long legs. So I hope now you remember each and every explanation. Here one extra and small information is given. Know your scientist. Salim Ali is a very famous scientist who has studied about the birds of India in very detail. He is also therefore known as Birdman of India. So this you can also keep in your mind You could also be asked in the general knowledge, who is the birdman of India? Salim Ali, because he had read a lot about the Indian birds, he has researched about it, and he had a whole lot of knowledge about the Indian birds. Okay, my dear students, now let us discuss a short objective, and with that we will end our today's lecture. So first we can see match the following on the screen. I hope you all are able to see the screen and the match the following. Now what you can do is you can hold the pencil and you can solve match the following in your textbook itself. Now first is sparrow. So here the name of birds are given and here their eating habitats are given. Let us match the birds with their eating habitats correctly. First is sparrow. Sparrow, so does sparrow sucks the nectar from the flower? No. Insects and worm from the water? Obviously not. Then does the sparrow eats nuts and grain? Yes. So let us match it. I hope, my dear students, you too are matching the arrow in the same way I am doing. So sparrow matches with the nuts and grains. What about hoopoe? Do you remember hoopoe? So this bird and the woodpecker, they both had the pointed and the strong beaks. What do? So they eat the insects from the holes. They cannot poke the hole in the tree, but they can eat the insects from the holes which are already present in the tree trunks. Now what about the eagle? Do they suck the nectar from the flower? Obviously not. Do they eat insects and worms from the water? No. So they eat the small birds and animals. Eagle eats small birds and animals. They hunt their own food. Now the duck matches with option B, insects and worms from the water. Do you remember, students? Duck had the broad and the flat beaks. So what do? They just open their mouth, they just dive inside the water with their beak open and then catches the worms and insects from the water. And the last one is sunbird. They suck the nectar from the flower like the hummingbird. So I hope that you also have matched this. Now we will solve these two example answers and the remaining explanation part in the next lecture. Hope you enjoyed this lecture. So thank you for watching the lecture, my dear students. Stay safe, keep following all the lectures. Goodbye, take care.